Hello and welcome to Auto Repair Shop Truths. My name is Kurt Bennett and I'm going to be using my 26 years of automotive repair shop experience to guide you from start to finish, from picking the right repair shop and dealing with whatever they throw at you, and how to save you money and so much more, be it at a dealership or an aftermarket repair shop. I'm going to expose the behind the scenes workings and provide insights you won't find anywhere else, giving you the upper hand the next time that your check engine light comes on. You'll know how to pick the right shop, what to expect when you arrive at the front counter, how to handle the call that comes from the shop later on, and guidance on what to fix and so much more. Nothing fancy here, folks, just auto shop repair truths. So let's get started on today's episode. Hey, and welcome to this episode. So this one, it should be fairly straightforward, but I still got to explain a little bit because I do find that a lot of the times, if it was done from the same from shop to shop to shop, this wouldn't be a problem. But you do have to address it because it is different from shop to shop. And that is getting something in life for free. And if you're my age or older, for sure, your mom told you, your dad told you, nothing in life is free. You got to work for what you get. If you want something, you got to pay for it. Today, with the new generations and stuff, it seems like something we're going to have to readdress because there is no free lunch. I mean, there's a bunch of different ways to say it, but we're going to talk about a little bit about why diagnostic is necessary, kind of get into that just a little bit to help you understand it. So let's talk about a little bit some of the disparity from shop to shop and a couple of the companies out there that are out there that are just making this a lot worse for us as being the independent shops or even the dealerships. So the disparity between shop to shop is just simply the menu price of the diagnostic. You got to understand that, we talked about this in some of these other videos that I've done, is where it's rare that you can go from one shop to another shop and compare the two and it be apples to apples. One shop is going to have a little bit different amenities than the other. One warranty is going to be better than the other. So you ask yourself, well, why does any of that matter? Well, it's return on investment. It's basically, if I'm a shop and I offer you a 3-year, 36,000 mile nationwide warranty, I use real good quality parts, I pay to have the best technicians there so they can diagnose and fix your car right the first time. I got quality service advisors that, they're honest and there's integrity there. I mean, I could go on and just build the value in this. Well, maybe it's not an unfair thing to then request, say, $150, $180 diagnostic for, say, a check engine light. And then you'll have tiers where you might have, okay, well, what about a noise diagnostic? Well, that may not be as much as a check engine light diagnostic. Some of these noises can be pretty involved in finding. Electrical issues. Hey, when I turn my radio on, my car honks, it dies out. Every light on the dash comes on and the headlights flash from high beam to low beam for 30 seconds. That's a challenge. You're not going to get that checked out for $150. Whatever their menu price is, they should have their own kind of scalable electrical systems diagnostic for something like that. It's going to range from shop to shop. Now, the shop down the road may just have a 12-month, 12,000 mile warranty. Maybe all their technicians aren't ASE certified. Maybe, they're just kind of maybe you got some fairly unscrupulous people working in there over the years, and they don't really put a lot of value in what they're doing because they simply can't. They realize right at the core, we don't offer what the shop does down the street. We don't have ASE guys. So our diagnostic is $99.95. And just looking at something on a price level from that, I'm with you. $180 versus $99. I think I'll go over here and get it diagnosed. But again, ASE certified guys, first time right, shows you exactly what you need done. It fixes the problem versus $99. They guessed, they got it wrong. You're back 1 time, 2 times, 3 times. So there's value in that. There is value in that. Is there a ceiling on diagnostics? I was in a class here not too long back where the guy was out of California. And of course, we not only have to remember shop to shop, apples to apples comparisons, but you have to think about location, right? In California, everybody knows, New Jersey, the cost of living is exceptionally high. So naturally, you're going to have maybe a $250 an hour diagnostic, or $250 diagnostic, just to look at the car, okay? Diagnostics have the odd kind of just across the board variance that it really comes down to a lot of different things, right? So you got to keep that in mind. It's hard to do apples to apples comparisons. So not only do you have the shop disparity from shop to shop, you also have someone out there who's kind of not really helping the situation. So AutoZone, O'Reilly's, I would imagine in what part of the country you're in, Checker, Shucks and Cragen, Advanced, Pep Boys, they probably all got their own variety of, you walk in, there's something right on the front of the store. It's a plastic decal. Check engine light? We check it for free. And I actually don't blame a customer for going for that free portion of it. I don't. I get it. They're lay people. They don't know that a lot more goes into diagnostics than just reading a code. Okay, so back in the old days, you'd read a code, it'd just give you a code, that was it. Today, these scanners that they're using, believe me, trust me, let me help you. The scanners that O'Reilly's and AutoZone and all those use, they're bottom of the barrel scan tools. Okay, so, and what I mean by that is they can pull a code, and the code is like a universal code. Okay, so let's say PO300, that's a multi-misfire code, that's random misfire. One or more of the cylinders is misfiring. However, when it starts getting into transmission codes and things like that, it varies from car to car. That exact code from car to car can mean just a little bit different, to where whatever they end up telling you it needs, in other words, what's common on these scan tools that they use is they'll spit out a paragraph. A common one is an oxygen sensor. Okay, so it'll tell you bank 1 O2 or bank 1 sensor 2 oxygen sensor heater failing or something like that. Okay, well, on a car that's a V8, a V6, who knows what bank 1 is? Who knows what bank 2 is? Who knows what bank, not only which bank it is, but which sensor it is. Some cars have 4 sensors, some cars have 2 front ones and one rear one. You've got a diagnostic, you have a word for word verbatim explanation of what that code can mean. Okay, but understandably, lay people take it, they read it, they walk into a shop and say, hey, my check engine light's on. Okay, the diagnostic is 180. Oh, no, AutoZone did it for free. Here's what I need. And I'm gonna give you a couple examples of why it's not wise to do that. So, but AutoZone and O'Reilly's haven't really been helping our industry that much by doing that. They're not giving you anything. It's that information that they give you. If you are a shade tree mechanic, it might help you. But if you're a shade tree mechanic worth anything, you've got your own scan tool. And it isn't this little rinky-dink $60 one. They've got like $7,000, $10,000. They got scan tools that go up to $20,000, $30,000, $40,000 for factory scan tools. That's another reason why the diagnostic won't be free. You have to, at some point, pay for that tool that you bought to diagnose a vehicle correctly. A lot of these scan tools that the shops have, they've got all kinds of data on there. They can watch live stream, they can do scoping, they can do all kinds of stuff, whereas these little handheld ones that AutoZone and O'Reilly's have, they're bottom of the barrel. They're just not worth it. It's worth the money you paid for it, which was nothing. So what a technician will actually do, yes, they're going to do that. They are going to literally plug in the scan tool, read the codes, and they're going to go from there. Because let's say in the example of the PO300 or even the oxygen sensor example, they know that the issue is presenting itself in that emissions system. That part of the system, like I said, it's got multiple oxygen sensors. Some of the data that you get off of that will tell you if it's actually the sensor failing or it's the sensor reacting to the environment that it's being exposed to. And what I mean by that, I've had so many times where customers go to AutoZone or O'Reilly's and they get it scanned for free and it says they need an oxygen sensor. There's been times where customers didn't want the diagnostic, we went ahead and replaced it. It didn't fix it. That's a whole nother subject of the fireworks that come after that. And times that it doesn't and the customer wants us to dig deeper into it, well, it turns out they just had an exhaust leak. The exhaust leak would have been in front of the oxygen sensor, so it's sucking in air where air shouldn't be sucked in at. The sensor, that environment that sensor's reading, the data, it's too lean, there's too much air. So you would think that sensor is reading poorly. It says a code in it. AutoZone says it's a code for oxygen sensor. Replace oxygen sensor. You know, that's not a diagnostic. It is not. Example, customer came in one day, and I almost always And I think at some point, the owners of the business came to the conclusion that we're no longer going to do that. If we're not going to diagnose the car, we're not going to do anything on it. But prior to that, the mantra was, you come in, you have a check engine light, you went to AutoZone. They said, this gentleman example said he needed a camshaft sensor. Okay. Camshaft sensor, crankshaft sensors, there's all kinds of sensors on the car, but the schematic that he had, or the presentation he had from that scan tool, said camshaft sensor failing, replace, And they walk in and they say, hey, I got a diagnostics done. I get it again. We're talking layman people walking in somewhere saying, come in, we'll diagnose or check your check engine light for you. I don't blame anyone for thinking that they got a diagnostic for free, but you didn't. So I explained to the customer, I said, well, look, I can do this one of two ways. We can go ahead and just go in there and replace the camshaft sensor. If it fixes your problem, Bob's your uncle, all's good. You dodged the $130 diagnostic fee. However, if I go in and I replace it and it doesn't fix it, you've just paid me parts and labor to put something on your car that it didn't actually need. I can't take it off. I'm not going to take it off. So you'll spend $600 and it didn't fix your problem. And then if you want to diagnose it properly, we can talk about the $130 diagnostic. That's a difficult thing for a person to decide on. I 100% get it. I understand. Do I depend on what AutoZone told me and get it done and save myself $130? And I always explain this. If you pay me the diagnostic and I come back and tell you the exact same thing that AutoZone told you, you still owe the diagnostic. I verified, I made sure that's what it was, so we didn't get down that road of replacing parts that didn't actually need. So there is that danger. However, I looked at it as a positive. Not because I'm the one doing the sales, but I certainly want to rely on someone who knows exactly what they're doing to either confirm or deny that this part is actually bad. Okay. So in this particular example, AutoZone said I need a camshaft sensor. Do you want me to do a diagnostic? Or do you want me to just replace the part? An abundance of caution, he decided to let me go ahead and do the diagnostic. I did it. Did he need a camshaft sensor? The code was for a camshaft sensor. Yes, it was. But look at this. This car was a dual overhead cam engine, which means it has two camshafts, one on this side of the engine, one on this side of the engine. All four of these camshafts require a camshaft sensor to provide data to the computer of what's going on. How are they reading? Where are they at in relation to the timing of the engine? So he had four camshaft sensors. AutoZone didn't tell him which one of the four, or all four, or two, whatever. So come to find out, it wasn't a camshaft sensor at all. About a foot away from one of the camshaft sensors, a rat had gotten in there and gnawed some of the wiring going to that camshaft sensor. So the repair involved repairing a wire. I think it was $30, in addition to the diagnostic. So those are times that you can really lose. Because again, had we went in, I would have had to have made the phone call. Hey, look, which camshaft sensor you want me to replace? They told you need one. Which one? Because it wasn't saying that on the diagnostic. There's really a real benefit in getting a car diagnosed correctly. And unfortunately, AutoZone O'Reilly's hasn't helped people get past the point of understanding that there is no free lunch. You're not going to get anything for nothing. The other issue that we fall into in the independent repair shop area is, will you work it into the repair? So let me explain what happens to you with that. And I'm going to tell you that I've worked at shops that did that. I've worked at shops that didn't do that. And I'll give you the examples here. The shops that do that. Okay, let's say you come in, check engine light's on, diagnostic is 140. Do you want to do it? Yes, I do. But do you work it into the repair? I certainly do. Yes, if you approve the repair, I'll work that into the repair. Well, what does that exactly mean? I'll work it into the repair. Even if I say I'm going to cover the diagnostic, somebody in that business, customer, technician relationship, someone in there is going to win, someone in there is going to lose. Okay, because if I tell you I'm charging you a diagnostic, but I'll work it into the repair, well, the technician still has to spend time and go through that process of finding whether or not it's a camshaft sensor, doing his due diligence, tracing wiring, looking at signals. Okay, my signal's okay here, but it's falling out over here. So there's a process. Okay, so he's spending time on that car to do just that portion, just the diagnostic. So I come back and tell you it's a camshaft sensor and you say replace it. So now I tell the technician, hey, replace that camshaft sensor. Here's the parts and the labor. It calls for half an hour of labor. So first question out of the tech's mind or mouth is, hey, what about my diagnostic? Oh no, we're working to get into the repair. Well, that's not going to fly for him if he is on flag hours. Remember we talked about flag hours and things like that? Some technicians work off of either a salary, flag, or a blend of the two. So, but if he's flagged, he is going to have a severe issue with that, to the point where he will quit or he will not do that work. And so what the shop has to do at that point, if they're legitimately going to work it into the repair, they have to pay the technician, but yet not charge you on the ticket. Well, who's the loser in that? It's not the technician, certainly not you, because you're getting it done for free, for real. It's the business, okay? And as I said before, businesses are not in the business to lose money. They're in the business to make money. Everybody should understand that concept. I worked at a shop one time where when I got there, I actually got my first, I don't know if it was my first customer or my second or third, but it was pretty quick. A customer came in, I stood up to help them. There were two other riders there at the time. Apparently the gentleman had always used one of the other riders, but that other rider wasn't there at that time. And so he came in and, said, hey, I'm here to get my check-in. Like, okay, well, diagnostic is $125 or what it was. Whoa, hold on, that's new. And I said, what do you mean what do you mean it's new? Well, because the guy I usually use never charges me diagnostic. And I was like, well, and I had to backpedal at that point. I didn't know, I was new. I'm not going to go to war over something like this when I certainly don't know the past history of this type of stuff. So I said, well, it is just something new. It is something new they've started, and so I kind of went through it like that. Similarly, something like that happened every few visits with someone. And there was a day where I was walking through the middle of the shop and the technician called me over and he said, hey, Kurt, come here. Hey, man, thank you. Thank you. I said, for what? You're getting me diagnostics. Now, remember, these guys are flag hours. They only get paid on what they actually do, what they can bill out on a ticket. And that wasn't the first tech that did that. There was another tech that did the same thing. I want to say it was that day or the next day, but they thanked me because apparently on the front counter, the service advisors were not getting diagnostic for these guys. And so in that scenario, what would happen is you come in for check engine light, they're not even mentioning diagnostics. And if this happens to you and they don't mention diagnostics to you, you are not beholden to pay for that. Understand that. So if you walk in and say, I got a check engine light, okay, we'll get it checked out. And let's say I call you an hour later and tell you what it is and you just don't want to do it. Well, you come to pick the car up and I say, okay, that'll be $130. What? No. You need to tell me about this. You need to give me the opportunity to approve it or decline it right then and there so I know what I'm in for. You can't spring that on me at the end of it. I'm totally with you 100% on that. So if that happens to you, fight it tooth and nail. And I can tell you 9 times out of 10, you're going to walk out of there without paying anything. Okay? So in that particular scenario, the customer's not told, the tech does the check, he finds the problem, the work is declined. Well, who loses there? Remember I told you about that 3 business, customer, technician. Both the business and the technician loses out on that. Customer wins, and rightly so if they didn't mention it. Someone is going to lose, someone's going to win. In a business, you shouldn't expect to walk in and expect to get something for free. Now, are there times that by goodwill we can waive something? Or let's say you had a bunch of work done, the bill's $3,000, and you ask me to waive the diagnostic. Will it kill me to do that? No, and most often you're not going to have to ask me to do that. I'm going to do it anyway and tell you about it, Understand there's just not going to be a scenario in that business where you get something for free. Scenario number 3, you walk in, hey, check engine light's on. Okay, it's $150 to check it out. You want to do it? Do you work it into the repair? Why, yes, we do. If you approve the repairs. Oh, good. Okay, yeah, go ahead. So I call you, tell you what it is, you approve it, you come up, you pay your bill, you look on your invoice, diagnostic, zeroed. It's zeroed out. I won, I got it for free. No, you did not. I had people get upset with me because they told me that the shop down the road always has done it like that. I try to educate them on what's really happening. They're not having it. They have been, again, hypnotized and thinking and lied to that was being worked into the repair, or it would be waived. I'm pretty sure most people here listening to this don't know what the water pump cost to replace on a 2012 Jeep Grand Cherokee. I'm sure you don't. I'm sure you don't know the parts. I'm sure you don't know the labor. So let's say, and I'm gonna keep numbers simple, let's say that when I make the repair and I'm preparing the estimate, and I know I've told you I'll work the diagnostic into the repair. I'm working the estimate. The technician is flag hours. He's gonna get paid, okay, whether or not you pay it or not. So as I'm working that estimate, I work up the estimate and I find out that the water pump is $100 and labor to change it is $200. This, I haven't mentioned this to you yet. I haven't sent you the estimate. Before I send you that estimate, I'm going to go in there and I'm going to change that $200 labor to $250 labor, and I'm going to change that water pump to a $160 water pump. How much is the bill there now, right? I send it over. You ask me, now this is without the diagnostic included? That's right. You approve it, it's covered. Okay, go ahead. Well, I won. Got something for me. Mama, you were wrong. No, Mama was right. You're not getting anything for free. I don't like that. Could I do that? I don't, because what I share with you is going to be transparent, truthful. It is what it is. The parts are going to be at the markup that they're at. The labor rate's going to be set for whatever the labor rate's at. All the parts matrix I talked about in the Understanding Labor and Parts video. It is what it is. So you either don't want to fix your car or you do. You want to fix it with us or you don't. You want the warranty and all the beautiful things that come with repairing it with us versus the hole in the wall down the road. Completely understand it. When I contact you with the estimate, you have the option not to do it. But one thing I'm not going to do is lie to you. I'm not going to sit there and snakily change parts and labor to offset something that I lied to you. I told you on the front counter I would work it into the repair. I had some guy come in and he assumed it. It was a first-time customer. He dropped off that morning and said, as I always do, I'm very concise on what I'm asking of the customer so that they know as they walk out that door, this is what you're looking at, just to get into it. Okay, fine. Oh, absolutely, no problem. Comes to pick up the car. He'd approved some repairs on the car. Whoa! What's this diagnostic still doing on here? I said, remember when you dropped it off, we talked, he approved it? Well, I assumed it would get worked into the repair. I said, oh, no, I never mentioned anything like that. Well, all the other shops I've ever been to have always, no, you've always been lied to. Oh, that's bull. I'm going to write you the worst review. His fingers were going to be busy that night. Look, this is a tough business. We are faulted with being snaky, sneaky, unfair, overpriced, shirking responsibility for either a repair that went wrong or a diagnostic that wasn't right. I think one way I can keep one more little chip at the rock face off is by just being truthful and honest about the diagnostic. Now, if other shops want to do that, that's fine. But this series is meant to help you understand that when they tell you that, I wouldn't even challenge them on it, honestly, because they're going to do it anyway. Okay, they're honestly just they're going to charge you for the diagnostic anyway, somehow, some way. Now, sometimes there are times where the diagnostic can be legitimately worked into it, and it's going to be for your smaller type checks, right? So, hey, my car clicked this morning. Finally started, it came on. Okay, well, let's check your battery starter charging system. Okay, let's check that. It's $49.95. If you do that repair, let's say it's an alternator, let's say it's a battery, let's say it's a starter, we will waive the diagnostic. I personally worked at shops that did that, 100% truthful. Another one is brakes. I'm hearing a squealing noise. I'm hearing a grinding noise. My pedal feels kind of weird, Well, there's going to be a brake diagnostic. And rather than just peer through the wheels and try to get an idea what the brakes look like, legitimately, if I'm just doing it during a 27-point check or something, I'm not going to pull the wheels off. I mean, but if you come in and you specifically state an issue with the brakes, not my ABS lights on or anything like that, but my brakes are pulsating when I hit them. I hear a squeal, I hear a grind. They don't seem to stop as well as they used to. I'm going to want to pull the wheels. Well, do you pay for a tire rotation? Unless you get your tires for, at that discount tire, and they do them for free. But 9 times out of 10, if you go to a shop where you don't have some kind of like warranty thing with the tire purchase that you bought, you're going to pay for tire rotation. Well, guess what happens during tire rotation? So there's going to be a minimal charge to pull all 4 wheels and look at the brakes. And it might be 60, it might be 70, whatever it is. Now, if you do the repairs then, same scenario. Most of the shops I've worked at will always take away the diagnostic because you're doing the repairs. I mean, the wheels are off. If you give us the green light, the wheels are off, we're going to go ahead and get it done, no problem. So they'll waive that. So there are times where that is a legitimately true statement that they will work it into the repair, but by and large, diagnostics, the diagnostic side of stuff, I hear a noise, my check engine light on, all my dash lights are on. Like I said, the horn comes on when I start the car. The weird stuff, you're going to get a diagnostic on that. Please don't believe they're going to give it to you for free. Unless you're okay with that and you have the kind of psychological mindset where I just have to get something for free. And if you just tell me, that's like getting it for free. Whatever good that helps you when you drop your car off, there you go. Sometimes there's a blend, right? Hey, my check engine light's on. Hey, I hear a grinding from the brakes when I hit them. My ABS and traction control lights are on at the same time. When I start the car, there's a click and things like that. Now, like I just explained, legitimately, I've got 4 or 5 different diagnostics on there I can charge. There's different systems, there's different issues. Can I check what's causing your brakes to be making grinding noise by sticking a scan tool up into it? And no, I can't. I have to pull the wheels. Now, there comes a point, and I've actually seen this happen. I do this myself. If you come in with a laundry list of stuff, at some point, no shop is going to feel good about nickeling and diming you for every little thing that needs to be looked at. I mean, it's just not going to happen. And there are some times where, let's say in the instance of the brakes grinding and your ABS light is on, there could be some association there. So I might, to cover my technician, I might say, well, I'm going to need 150 diagnostic for the ABS, and then I need 75 to check the brakes. That's a standard check. If you do the repairs you recommend on the 75, we'll waive the brake diagnostic. But let's say at some point in the day, I find out that those two are related. Well, I'm not going to take the highest of both of them. I'm going to take the one that makes the most sense to charge. So let's say that the ABS system was causing an issue, making your brakes act up. Well, it's not the other way around. So I'm going to charge you the 150 diagnostic for the ABS. I'm automatically waiving the brake diagnostic for the noise you were hearing because they're related. So a lot of shops, they'll be fair in that. But there does come a time where you are going to have a few different lines of diagnostic if it gets to that point where you've got all these different things going on. Because let's face it, I'm checking 10 different things for $150. I don't know. That's not going to be my tech. That's not going to swing with my tech. What's interesting in something like this is I have had times where customers came in for an oil change. And I get it. You're coming in for an oil change. You know you're going to be here about 30, 45 minutes. And I've had people stand in front of me and they've made an appointment for an oil change. That's all they said they were coming in for. They're still going to get the 27-point, work over check and all that. But that's part of the oil service. But they'll come in and they'll start laying off. They'll say, oh, while you're in there, hey, when I pull my seatbelt out, it kind of grabs, and when I turn my radio on, it'll stay on for about 30 seconds and cut off and then come right back on. My charging port, it doesn't work, Can you look at that? And then when I hit a bumps, I hear like a thunk noise. It's pretty bad. It's driving me crazy. And so I'm sitting there, just kind of, yes, we can. I don't know if I can do that in the 30, 45 minute window you might have been expecting, but if you can leave it with me, I can check it. Now, on the thumping noise, I'm going to need our standard diagnostic on that, 79.5. For the charging port, sounds electrical to me. I may or may not need some significant time. And I'll go through all this, and you know what they say at the end of it? Just do the oil change. So you can weed out a lot of the not so serious customers in that regard. And I hate to put it like that, but look, we talked, I don't know, in some of the other videos, I talked about bay efficiency, okay? A car occupying a bay has to be in and out with a certain amount of time to keep the bay efficiency where the business wants it to be. And so if I've got a car in there and I'm checking 10 different things while I'm doing an oil change, and I mean legitimate issues like the thumping in the rear, the turn on the radio and the headlights are high beaming, those are legitimate things that my bay is not producing the amount of money that it should because my tech is not getting paid to check all these things. So I don't expect customers to know about bay efficiency and all this stuff, but I think customers by and large should know or be on the understanding that when you lay down a laundry list of things, there's going to be some charges for that. So that's to help you understand why there's diagnostics and how it can get to where we're at the moment, talking about all these different things. It's all in an effort to kind of give you some comfortable feeling about it. I'm not trying to make you feel comfortable about losing $150 that you may not really feel good about losing, but I'm trying to explain why that's necessary and why shops will push it. And we always have to keep in mind that most vehicles out there are not 1975 Camaros. They're not 1980 Firebirds. They're not 2002 Chevy pickups. Today's cars have so many computers on them, so many. And it's difficult. They're getting harder to work on, not easier. Now we've got hybrid vehicles, we've got all electric vehicles. The shops pay their technicians to go to ongoing training so they can get introduced to these new systems, and they'll do case studies, you know, and show technicians how to, okay, if a customer comes in with this particular code, I know you think it's going to be this and you're going to go after that, but you're going to be completely wrong. It's actually the cigarette lighter that's causing it, or there's no cigarette lighters, but it's the charging port. So they go to ongoing training. Well, those training courses are not free. Okay, the company pays for them for the technician. The tech don't pay for them generally. And then the technician goes to it and he gets trained. It's ongoing training. Sometimes techs can pick certain classes that they want that they may feel that they're kind of not that skilled in. They can go take that course and then submit it to their company, and their company will pay for that. Well, all that paying for training has to come from somewhere, and that's what diagnostics are for. So there's something to think about as well. Here's one we hear a lot. My buddy, my friend, my dad, he told me that's what this is. Well, they've taken AutoZone out of the equation completely. And Dad, you know, and so again, if you know, unless shops have just outright declined doing it this way, some shops will still, okay, they still want to go down this, because I can't tell you the number of times that's happened. And at the end of the day, when the customer comes to pick the car up, it's not fixed, and they owe $700 because the work we did was what Dad said to do or what AutoZone said it was. And let me tell you, the disconnect from what was talked about, agreed upon, everybody knew going into this what the possibilities would happen. Well, guess what? I don't think I should have to pay you for this. It didn't fix the car. It didn't fix the problem. Well, why did you go ahead and do it if you weren't sure that's what it was? I mean, and it's so unnerving, and it's scary for a service advisor to have to deal with something like that, because I mean, it could be peaches and cream the whole way through. Oh, thank you for taking care of it. Thank you that you guys are working with me and not charging me diagnostic. And then at the end of the day, it's Jekyll and Hyde, and it's horrible. It's horrible. I think sometimes people are genuinely confused as to why it didn't fix the problem. They're naturally upset and they're naturally going to be venting. I get it. But then I think there's also times where customers knew all along this was the game that was going to be played. If it fixes it, great. If it don't, squeaky wheel gets the grease, baby. And of course, that review's not going to look too good. And so I get it. Again, you're setting yourself up for trouble. You know, I'm watching the fireworks show happen, but you're the one lighting the fireworks. So we're both going to be taking part of this little exercise at the end of the day when it goes south. There's another tactic too, that one shop will keep the diagnostic fee unusually low just to get you in the door. But then again, they go ahead and pad parts and labor after the fact. So even if they say, oh, our diagnostic is only 100, there are 150 down there? Oh my gosh, it's terrible, terrible, criminal. I'll do it for 100. Well, man, I like that. Absolutely. Get the diagnosing. Well, when the diagnostic is done and your parts and labor have been padded to get back up to that shop down the road, you're not going to know it. Again, I want you to look more at the overall picture of what all's there. I know some diagnostics at dealerships are getting up in the $250, $350 range. I talked about that company in California. We went to a seminar with that thing, and as he's teaching the seminar, he owns a shop in California where he is doing this egregious, in our minds, diagnostic. Well, you have to remember, the cost of living in California is excessively high. That's going to affect all kinds of pricing. I remember when I was there in 2000, I want to say 2002, 2003, San Diego. I know we rail about gas prices nowadays, but back then it was $4.50 a gallon. I'm not lying. It has always been high there. They're not going to get any relief. I don't care who's in the Oval Office. Again, this is all an attempt to try to help you guys, kind of wade through the murky waters of the shop experience and stuff like that. I'm not on anybody's side. I'm on the side of transparency, and I'm on the side of truth. If I was just on the customer side, I wouldn't relate stories about a certain situation, and vice versa. I wouldn't expose what's happening behind the scenes if I was on the company side. This is all just a legitimate 100% translation of what you can expect when you visit a repair shop, and in this regard, to the diagnostics portion. So let's talk about, is there ever a way that you can maybe get something looked at for free? I'm not going to use the word free because, again, I've just went through this explanation of how nothing in life's free. We all know that. Most do. Here's an example of how you might get something, you'll get some attention put on it. Okay, it may not be diagnosed, but sometimes you don't need diagnostics. Here's an example. I hear a thunking noise while I'm driving down the road. Okay, sound like it's coming more from the front. So as you come in for an oil change, okay, they're always going to do their bumper-to-bumper check with pictures and video if they need and all this stuff. So keep that in mind. So you're standing there in front of the service advisor and you're saying, hey, I'm here for my oil change appointment. Okay, we'll get it done and we're going to look the car over. Okay, yeah, that's fine. Hey, and also I hear a thunking noise. Like when I go over bumps, I hear like a thump thump noise coming from the back most times. Oh, okay, well the diagnostic for that is $149. Would you like to? Nah, I'm okay. Just do the oil change and check the car. Just do my normal visual checks. Okay, well, you leave. The tech's thinking, either then or he will later. So what's going to happen? The general service guys are going to do your oil change, and they're looking the car over, and guess what? In the back, they see your shocks are puking oil. Well, knowing what I know about car repair, the thunk, thunk, thunk noise more than likely is going to be a dead shock, a dead strut, or something like that. So later on, the service advisor, he sees that report that's been generated by the general service before you guys see it. So he goes out to the general service and says, yeah, they were talking about, they heard like a thunking noise in the back. I wonder if that's it. For the cost of the oil change and the no-cost 27-point check, you might have got your rear thunking noise diagnosed, okay? Because now the technician's going to come, the service advisor is going to come in and say, hey, good news, Ms. Jones, we found this and this and this in your car. All that's look good. Air filter's dirty. Here's a picture of that. And by the way, we see your rear shocks are leaking. Now, me being a service advisor, I could just leave it at that and inform you. Or I could say, now, Ms. Jones, I'm not sure if that noise that you heard is coming from these shocks in the back, but I sure as heck know that it can cause that. And so I can get these shocks changed out for you. They're bad anyway. They're leaking profusely. It will cause a thunking noise, but here's the important thing. I'm not sure it's going to fix your problem. So if you're willing to take, they're failing anyway. And like I said, 9 times out of 10, it's the shocks that will cause that type of noise. So if you want me to address that, I can. I'll get those shocks replaced, and hey, who knows? Maybe we're going to hit that mark and we're going to get that taken care of. And look, hey, good news, I didn't have to charge a diagnostic for it. So there's times that you might be able to just have like the free overall check done on the car. Where it may not work out so well is, let's say you came in, dropped your car, same scenario. Hey, but I'm seeing some oil dripping on the ground. Okay, well, we'll check that out. We'll do our oil diagnostic on there. It's $150. Would you like to do that? No, I'm not going to do that today. Okay, no problem. So I do the oil service. The general service guy takes pictures. He takes a video. He sees oil all underneath this car. In this regard, he's just going to verify or just tell you what you already know. You have a pretty bad oil leak, okay? Now, by the time oil actually starts hitting the ground, it's fairly bad because oil, the way it leaks out of flanges and seals and all this stuff, unless it's really just puking out, it'll slowly leak down, and then the air, as you're driving, coming underneath the car, going into the front of the car, the air turbulence and the air, it'll grab the oil drips and kind of spritz them all over. So by the time, I mean, it's covering a lot of real estate, engine real estate up underneath there, and suspension and chassis and all that. So by the time it accumulates so much where the oil really has, I mean, it's already been sprit here, it's already been spritzed here, it's already been, well, it'll finally accumulate enough to where now it'll drip. It's shocking sometimes when customers, talk about an oil leak on the ground and then they get a picture of it. It's like, holy cow. In that regard, would you get a diagnostic for free? Because no, because some scenarios like that, they're gonna need to clean that entire area, run it and see where it's actually leaking from. Because to the tech, he can call every seal, every oil is touching in there, and he's gonna be wrong except for 1% of what he's calling or whatnot. However, the way you may get it done for free is as he's taking his pictures, it's inarguable. That leak is coming from the valve cover gasket. He can see it, it's plain as day. It's just started coming down. Well, as a service advisor, wanting to make the sale, wanting to take care of your issue, hey, Ms. Jones, good news. Hey, while we're doing the oil service, we saw that, you talked about that oil leak dripping. Now, this isn't a full diagnostic. I haven't charged you anything on that, but I mean, if it ain't that valve cover, I don't know what it is, because it's leaking pretty good, and that's the only spot we see it leaking from currently. Now, again, I have to be cautious. I could do this. I could do the valve cover gasket replacement. Of course, I'd price out parts and labor, but I'm not saying this is where it's coming from 100% because I just don't know. I didn't do my diagnostic. I can't stand behind this, but it is what it is. I mean, I'm seeing this valve cover leaking. I mean, it's coming out. It's leaking directly on the ground, just like you saw. So there's a time where you can probably get something done for free or check for free in that regard if it ends up being like that. These days, technicians are so scared anyway, they would put a replace valve, oil found leaking from valve cover gasket, replace valve cover gasket, and retest. That's a common term that technicians, they themselves, and of course service advisors will pass on because too many weird things have happened over the years where, yeah, it looked 100% like it was coming from that valve cover. You know where this catches them the most is noises. Noises is a killer for a technician. They've got these guys so scared right now to make a call on a noise. They almost always want the customer now to drive with them. That's not feasible a lot of times because customers, they drop the car off, they got life. They got to take kids to school, go home, be a housewife, go to the business, be a engineer, a doctor, whatever. They've got to come back the other day after the dust is settled and pick their car back up. So you call them and say, hey, would you come up and ride with us so we can be certain, They can't do that. So a lot of times you can hear noises, you can figure out where they're coming from. But the strangest thing is sometimes I've had this happen. I have had this happen too many times to count. Customer drops off for a noise while they're driving. It's while they're going down the road. They hear like a knocking noise or something like that. The tech takes the car for a drive, distinctly hears a knocking noise, comes back, 100% calls that knocking noise, 100% calls the control arms or whatever. Customer approves the control arms replacement. Take it on test drive. After we're done, the tech no longer hears that knocking noise. Customer comes pick up the car, comes right back. Hey, that noise is still there. So the tech is like, what? Yeah, well, we heard this bad knocking noise. Oh yeah, that knocking noise, I'm okay with that. I'm talking about that little whoop, 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 whoop noise, So the customer spent $2,000 and it didn't fix their problem. So you're almost always going to get the replace and retest terminology in the diagnostic of it, because it's unless you ride with them, and even then, in rare instances, it's an odd animal. It's a phenomenon. It'll make the noise the morning you drive up there, and then when you come to ride with the tech and go on the ride with the tech, it's not making the noise. It's weird. Diagnostics is a necessary evil in this business. Now you could go to a shop that you trust and has a reputation for making first-time right calls on repairs, and you could get the estimate back. And like we talked about in a prior video, using RepairPal to kind of gauge where that repair should be. And if you're not entirely happy with that, you could then just pay the diagnostic and go home and have Dad do it if he's mechanically inclined. You could take it to another shop that they've told you they have a lower labor rate or whatever. Who knows? But at least you know it's called right. The trick in that is a lot of shops aren't doing that. Like I noted earlier, they're not allowing people to walk in and say, hey, Dad, AutoZone, this other shop said. They're not allowing that anymore they self-protect. If we're wrong and that diagnostic that we said that you paid for is wrong, and you go somewhere and you actually legitimately have the parts replaced and you come back and they hadn't been fixed, that's sticky. Because yes, I did tell you that was wrong, but let's say that when it was here and I did the diagnostic and what I said I needed to replace, you authorized it, I replaced it, and it didn't fix it. Well, guess what? There is no more diagnostics at that point. We need to, at that point, figure out what caused that noise. And then we can go in and say, well, you know what, we did that work. We charged you $700 and didn't fix a problem. I'm gonna credit you that $700, and I'm gonna let you know that, hey, what's actually making that noise is this, and it's $1,200. Do you want to do it? And you can get into that conversation, yes, no, all that good stuff. Please understand, I liken it a lot. I've talked about this example before. We're car doctors, and when you go to your doctor, right? If you do, it mentioned in the comments below that you've went to a doctor before and you've had a tummy ache, or you've had a pinch in your neck, or your fingers are trembling for no reason. When you went to your appointment, your diagnostic, okay, was the copay, okay? Maybe you had insurance where they don't charge a copay. Not often, but it happens. But let's say that the doctor's office says, okay, your portion is $125 for the visit today. I want to know how many of you have actually stood there and argued back and forth with that receptionist about how you shouldn't have to pay this. My dad said it's probably this, or the internet. I went to MD.com and typed in my symptoms and they came back and said this is what it is. It isn't going to fly. It just is not going to fly. So just like it won't fly there, it shouldn't fly at auto repair shops. However, as I've said in other videos, it's a strange animal. People try to bring us their parts. They try to tell us we don't need to do diagnostics. They would never do that at another business. You don't walk into McDonald's with a hamburger patty and say, hey, I want you to use my hamburger patty to give me a quarter pounder. You would never do that. I mean, it blows my mind sometimes how customers think, particularly in the automotive world. And I don't naturally knee-jerk blame them. I start thinking about, well, this mindset had to come from somewhere. Where did it come from that you could bring your own parts to fix your car? If I can blame anyone or attribute it to anything, it would have been back in the 60s, 50s, 70s, where maybe that was a thing. I know even today, there are some customers that when you tell them to pull around and pull in front of that bay out there, they literally pull into the bay. But you know who usually does that? Older people. Because back in the day, you did that. You would actually pull your car into the bay. The guys with the little caps and, the bow ties and check the oil for you while you get your fuel up, and all this. The service scenario was a lot different back then. And I noticed time and time again, old folks will pull right into the bay. And that's dangerous because, I've popped tires before, not aligning the car correctly to go over the little hump to allow the arms to swing in and lift the car. I've popped tires before. And let's say that you mean to hit the brakes, but you end up hitting the gas. You're going to run right to the wall. I've seen that happen. I'm still struggling with it, but I wouldn't expect the younger generations, unless Grandpa is telling them, is talking, hey, Grandpa, I'm going to show up, take my car. Yeah, just pull right into the bay, little girl, just pull right in. There was one other example I could give you real quick. A guy came in one morning. He said, hey, he had an estimate in his hand from Audi. And, hey, Audi said I need my lower control arms replaced. They're trying to charge me almost $5,000 to do it. And I already knew that Audis, Mercedes, BMW, I don't care, 30, 40,000 miles, your control arms can be bad. I mean, it's just, the German engineering folks is not true. So some shops will actually stock them. They stock these control arms because it happens so often. So when he presented that to me, I wasn't necessarily like, because his mileage was only like 43,000 miles, okay? And so I didn't even question, oddly enough, I didn't question why they had told him that or anything like that. I took it at face value. The guy just wants a comparative estimate. He's standing in front of me, rather than give it over the phone, which I don't like to do estimates over the phone. He's standing in front of me with that estimate, with his VIN number, his miles. I got everything I need at that point to basically make a quote without having to actually look at the car. So I did. And I think we came in at like 3,000, sub 3,000, something like that. So he said, okay, yeah, well, thank goodness you guys are here. Go ahead and do it. So he dropped the car off and we get it in there. And of course, like I say, we're going to do our overall. Now, I'm not charging him a diagnostic on this, okay? That's important to understand. We do our overall check on it. And we didn't find a thing. I happened, just to make sure that we don't miss something, I did advise the general service guys, told him exactly what happened, where he had been, what they had told him. There wasn't a thing wrong with these control arms, okay? So I call him back and I say, hey, look, my guy did his 27-point check. I can go ahead and do the control arms if you want, but what happened? Did you go in there saying that you were hearing thunking noises while you were driving down the road? He said, no, I just took it in for a state inspection and they did their free check on it and this is what they found. There's going to be issues like that where, now you can say perhaps the dealership was doing some real nefarious, devil worshiping kind of stuff. Okay, you can say that. They knew he didn't have anything wrong. They figure he drives an Audi, nice Audi. Maybe he's got money to burn. Here's an opportunity, Or maybe the guy doing the state inspection and the overall visual check just got hired 2 weeks before, doesn't really have any automotive experience. He saw something that he thought was bad and he called it. It's possible too. You blend that second scenario with the fact that it's not uncommon for these control arms to be bad. Maybe he didn't even see anything wrong with it. He just knew that he'd seen time and time again at this mileage, this is about when they fail. Maybe he's trying to be preventative. I don't know. I mean, you'd have to know the situation to condemn it or to just let it go. But again, that's another reason not to just rely on what someone said. If they're offering you a diagnostic, in this guy's case, it saved him almost $5,000, right? Because he was prepared to do it. If my estimate couldn't have beat his, then he would have went back to the dealership and got it done. Just one quick note that pretty much doesn't have anything to do with paying diagnostics, but it kind of falls into the realm of where someone's looking at the car, and that would be the 27-point, 50-point, 100-point, name your point. It can be any number of points depending on which shop you go to. As these guys are going through it, they're checking air filters, they're checking tires, they're checking brakes, they're checking the suspension, they're looking for oil changes, oil leaks, and things like that. But at some point, they're going to take, sometimes they'll use strips to test the brake fluid, the copper content in the brake fluid. If it's at a certain level, it's recommended to do the brake fluid service. Transmission fluid, they're checking that for color. They'll smell it, see if it smells burnt, if it's dark, and things like that. So they're going over the car, right? They're just doing their no-charge 27-point check. But of course, no place out there can survive just doing oil changes, right? So they're going to do, Jiffy Lube, Take 5. Maybe when they first started out, that was their focus. But over the years, they've kind of transferred into doing more and more of the maintenance-y type stuff because you just can't survive as a business by just doing oil changes, right? So as these guys are looking over the car doing their free diagnostic, not diagnostic, bad term, no charge complimentary. You don't want to say free. They teach in the business not to say free because what does free mean? It's not worth anything. So we're going to do a full bumper-to-bumper 27-point check at no cost or complimentary. Like I said, it's all in the words you use, like when you're calling in an extended warranty company, the terminology to avoid. And I mentioned that in one of those other videos. So what you need to watch out for on this is the process they use for that is fairly blind. For instance, I can do your brake fluid service today. In 10,000 miles, you go somewhere else to another shop, they check it. Depends on how the brake fluid service was done. Did they just suck out the reservoir and replace the little bit of fluid in this little cup? Or did they bleed it at each wheel? Hard to say. Most shops should bleed it at the wheel if they're doing a brake fluid service that's worth anything. Transmission fluid. So the point what I'm going to let you know here is even using Carfax. Okay, so if a customer comes in, I haven't ever seen their car, I'm going to use Carfax to get a good gauge of what they've done and when they've done it. If I see nothing's been done in there, and the car's at 75,000 miles, I'm going to look at what's pertinent as far as the fluid based on mileage or time and make recommendations based off that. But for Carfax, it depends greatly in how the business listed what was actually checked. Because in some cases, Carfax will interpret a check of the transmission fluid as serviced the transmission fluid. I don't know about you, but when I hear the word serviced, that means the transmission fluid was changed out. Otherwise, nothing was touched. It should have been just checked. You know, me as a service advisor looking at that, if it says transmission fluid was serviced at 90,000 miles, I'm not even going to mention it to you because you're only at 100,000. It's not time, obviously, to do it. When in fact it is, it's overdue. So you got to kind of watch out for stuff like that. When they're recommending these things to you, I've actually got, when Carfax didn't show it, because not every company reports to Carfax when they do work on cars. If your brake fluid and all that stuff had been serviced prior and yet not reported to Carfax, I might come into you while you're in the waiting room and say, hey, Ms. Jones, you're at 45,000 miles. This brake fluid should have been changed between 30 and 40. Would you like me to go ahead and do it? I just had it done at Tommy's 10,000 miles ago. Well, we don't know, you know. But really, you know, for a customer's confidence at that moment, you haven't really done yourself any favors by recommending something that hasn't been done. Now, you can do it as sheepishly as you want. I can come in and say, hey, I'm not sure. I don't see any records of it. And I can go through this whole spiel of how Carfax, you know, it gets reported to. Not every shop reports to it. So that when I finally do say, looks like your brake fluid's overdue, it's a little bit softer landing in the customer's mind as far as, you know, oh, well, I just had it done. Don't worry about it. Just had it done. I guess they didn't report to Carfax. Some of the business that they're using as a, not a, you know, it's again, I'm not calling it a diagnostic, but they're checking these things with some level of, we need to see if you need it. Okay, to my mind, a diagnostic is to see if you need something, right? So they'll use these trays. They're like a solid white tray with some dimples in it. And then next to the dimple are these little vials of 100% brand new clean fluid. And then they'll take your brake fluid, and where the vial is at that says brake fluid, they'll put a little of your brake fluid in the dimple that's right next to it. They'll do that for the transmission, they'll do that for the coolant, they'll do that for the power steering fluid. Now it's a white tray, right? So they come to you now, visual. Oh, your customers love visuals. Look, Miss Jones, look at what your brake fluid should be. Look what it is. Ugh. You know, so that kind of thing right there, it's somewhat deceiving. So it's important to keep records on something like that. So again, not in the same vein as doing a diagnostic fully, but they are looking over your car to see what might be needed. And knowing these things, you know, if you're not a person that keeps real good records on your car repairs, ask the shops that you go to, okay, do you report to Carfax? Because if they don't, it might be helpful to shove that in your glove box or to keep a little file of your own, so that if you were to be approached either legitimately not knowing, it's not recorded anywhere, it's going to be presented to you to be done, then you will have that record. You know what, hold on, I think I went to Charlie's XYZ shop and I think they did that. Let me go look real quick. And so to help you keep from having to, you know, because you're not going to know. Can you tell me where you were at, what was going on in your life 10,000 miles ago? Probably not. And so you're not going to realize it was just done 10,000 miles. You're going to realize maybe it was done. You're not sure. Was that the power steering fluid? You don't want to be really troubled with it. You just want to keep your car up. And that's our job, right? So when we don't have the records to go by, we are going to assume and stuff like that. But so in order to help you from making a bad decision and authorizing a brake fluid service that you might have just had done 10,000 miles ago, some level of record keeping. And again, I say it's important. Ask the shop as you drop the car off. You guys report to Carfax, right? Whatever y'all do. Most shops do. So that's basically understanding what Mama told us, what a lot of people told us, and maybe for those younger generations that nobody's ever told you. You know, it's understanding that, you know, people are in an industry to be paid. Technicians are no different. Like I said, in that 3-element scenario, customer, shop, technician, someone's going to lose there if diagnostics aren't approved. And there's ways around it, like I mentioned. If you have any questions or comments, or if you got any interesting stories to share, put them in the comments below. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Guys, I need you to get this out to people. I really am trying to help here. And by you getting out to your family and friends, looking forward to helping you. Stay tuned for next time.